A little bit about Oklahoma for you Texans, right above, seventh flag over Texas, okay? Whoa. Crossroads of America. I've highlighted the interstates here going through Oklahoma. We have I-40 east, west, I-35 north and south, and 44 going up towards St. Louis. Tremendous opportunities for the drug cartels to bring drugs and illegal immigrants and such as that. So the general populace in Oklahoma is very receptive to the fighting the illegal immigration problem, if you will. So that's a little bit about that. Oklahoma was founded, a statehood, in 1907. You may not realize it, but in Oklahoma in 1889, there were land runs to settle part of Oklahoma. It was considered Indian territory, if you will. The 5 civilized tribes were resettled to Oklahoma in that Trail of Tears situation. 1907 became a state. It's interesting. In the original Oklahoma state constitution, homeschooling was guaranteed. Isn't that interesting? Back to 1907. We actually have families occasionally move to Oklahoma because of the homeschool activity in Oklahoma and the way the legislature looks at homeschooling and allows that as the freedom was guaranteed in the original Constitution. Current population around 3,600,000. We currently have 5 U.S. representatives and 2 senators. Our 2 senators, Senator Inhofe, Senator Coburn, you may have heard about. They're the most conservative pair in the United States Senate. A little bit about building a foundation there. 1970s, young man by the name of Bill Cherry was coordinator in Oklahoma. Many of you know Bill. Fantastic, dedicated employee, John Birch Society. He developed a scorecard of state legislators and state, and he was transferred to the great state of Texas, I believe it was, or some other area, maybe Georgia, in '79. And the Oklahoma Constitution newspaper was developed. They adopted Bill Cherry's scorecard of state legislators on a voting record. Otherwise, we believe in the states you have to have a standard. If the people don't know how the state legislators are voting, they're going to be left out. We have the New American for the Congress and the Senate. But I really encourage you, if you're in the state, if there's any way that you can establish a voting review, voting standard for the state in which you live, it really helps the voters. So the Oklahoma Constitution newspaper, I have a copy here. It was launched in 1979, and it's been published quarterly ever since. It's a not-for-profit newspaper. It's a work of love, but they publish the voting records of our legislators every year since 1979, and it was established after a JBS chapter meeting by 3 young Birchers, one of which is still active at this time. Also, building the foundation, the state adopted term limits for the legislators. We didn't support those, but they were adopted, so we work within the system. Well, that was adopted in the 1990s. So amongst conservatives, we knew that there was going to be a rapid turnover in legislators. So what we did is work to that end. We wanted to be well established for when the term limits knocked out the old ones. That's rather interesting. For the first time in 100 years, Republicans controlled the state Senate in Oklahoma. This is one of the big reasons. Now, there's many reasons for that, but I want you to know what I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes is a part and parcel of that. The constitutionalists and the work of the John Birch Society have galvanized people to come together to hold the Republicans to straight constitutionalists. Now, we don't establish it with the majority of Republicans, but we do have a strong minority. In 1991, a group met after a man was planning to run for Attorney General, Tim Green. Charlie Meadows and Tim started meeting for luncheon every Wednesday during that election cycle. So they started inviting other groups. So in 1991, we started, the Wednesday lunch group was started. And that group has expanded and met every Wednesday for lunch for the last 20 years, with the exception of one when it fell on Christmas, okay? Also building a foundation in 1995, and this will lead a little bit as far as the spiritual factor, not to forget it. I got the resolution from the society regarding the condemnation, if you will, of the New World Order. So I had it, I hadn't put in a lot of time, so I went down to meet a representative. Happened to be a Democrat at the time in '95, and on the voting index, he may be a 50%er, okay? So I introduced myself to him, told him I was with John Birch Society, and we had this resolution, and it was really alarming, New World Order. He said, you know, you're right on target. It is. I left it with him. Guess what? About 3 weeks later, I read in the paper that it had been adopted by the Oklahoma State House. Just for one call and prayer, and I just didn't put in time that year. Boy, did that show me that my efforts, if you're not going through the door that God's opening for you, it may be your own efforts. You might try another direction. That's all I'm saying. I think we're the only state that one house approved that resolution, but that was done. Oklahoma Synergy. 1999, the Wednesday lunch group, we were kind of debating society. You know, those really don't get anything accomplished. So in 1999, the Oklahoma Conservative Political Action Committee was founded. Now, I don't want you to think we're politicizing the John Birch Society here. What you have is Birchers that when we Birch, we make our chapter meetings, okay? And that's Birch. But we do other things as all of us do. We're active in other organizations. So in '99, the Wednesday lunch group formed a political action committee. 4 out of the 5 members are Birchers. The other one's a constitutionalist. So we just started meeting, and a political action committee does one thing: raises money, supports candidates. So since 1999, we have interviewed, they come to us, we have interviewed in excess of 100 candidates, Republican only, for state representative or state senate. Since '99, our group has raised over $100,000. It's not a lot of money over 10 years, is it? But $100,000. We have endorsed 56 of those candidates. They come before us, we give them a survey that they're supposed to answer, 20 questions. One of those questions, where do your rights come from? If you want to realize how we're in such a problem, some of these people don't have a clue. Then these are Republican candidates. They're supposed to have a clue, but they have not a clue. So we have them complete the survey in order to come before us. And then it's an open forum to our questions. For example, if you have 3 Republicans running in a Republican primary, we invite all 3. They complete the forms, have a little debate time there, and then we ask them the hard questions. And I'd like to read to you just a couple of comments regarding this is the OPAC membership form, just stating about what OPAC is. Formed to promote and support constitutionalists in the state legislature who oppose expansive government, while at the same time promote liberty, free market economics, Judeo-Christian standards. Another paragraph, we want to support outstanding new candidates to state legislature who have strong convictions and the courage to stand by them. My, do we need that. Once elected, this kind of official can count to consistently govern well, encourage people to a personal responsibility, and reduce the size of government. Another paragraph, over the last 4 election cycle, we contributed 72 races, 35 of them have been elected. Let me repeat that. 35 of people we've endorsed over the last 4 or 5 election cycles have been elected to state legislature. See, we have friends that we can visit with. This doesn't mean they're all Birchers, but they're pretty conservative. Now, occasionally we'll get burnt. It's all right. They won't get our money again, okay? Sometimes it takes a special organization for a particular purpose. George and a few other Birchers and some other constitutionalists and great patriots formed what's known as OK Safe in 2005. The reason that was formed and the reason I showed you Oklahoma with the interstates, guess what was proposed to come through right through Oklahoma City at 535? NAFTA Superhighway. No, it's not going to. I guarantee you, not with OK Safe on guard, okay? And that's George. I tell you, Charlie Meadows, the founder of, one of the founders and current chairman of OPAC, is really nurtured State Senator Randy Brogdon, and I know many of you have heard him maybe on the radio nationally, and he's a great opponent of NAFTA superhighway. But George and OK Safe now have a full-time researcher, staff person, regarding researching in the state of Oklahoma threats to the sovereignty issue, the real ID, and these other things. And it's great. 2008, a gentleman from Florida, Don Crossan, he was in Oklahoma, went to work for the Society in Florida as a coordinator. Due to health reasons, couldn't stay on staff, so he moved back to Oklahoma. And Don Crossan set a goal in January, I believe, 2008 to expand the society, and he launched the JBS Crusade for Freedom. And the results of that, we were able to maintain a very strong illegal alien reform that was made. And with help of Representative Charles Key, he's one of the leading state reps regarding the opposition to the Real ID. Then, of course, we have the North American Union exposure. And at one point in time, one of the bills slipped by Randy Brogdon, and one of the other state senators caught it. And it had been approved by both houses, and it was sent to the governor. But then the state senator said there's one word that really opened up a can of worms, evidently. And we raised such a ruckus that it was recalled from the governor's desk. I mean, all hell broke out when OPAC and all these organizations said, oh, we made a mistake. And he did. They brought it back and changed the bill. So, and we were even named in the Daily Oklahoman, the OPAC was, as the reason for the bill being recalled. So it's been fantastic. All this has come about because of the relationships. I tell you, our new management in the John Birch Society, specifically Art Thompson, is responsible for a lot of this, for reaching out with working with other organizations. And I don't even know if Art's here or not, but I'd like to give him a great round of applause. He encouraged us on the National Council to basically reach out. Let's get along with others, okay, and grow this organization. When you grow friendships, you can build relationships. I have an individual that was an opponent with me for state representative. And look, don't ever burn any bridges politically like that with people that are of like mind. They just may not have the understanding that you have. And you don't want to start with these people at the level of their understanding and bring them along. And great things can happen. Recent victories, this was fun. In the state of Oklahoma, we have something that's kind of unique. We have a 3-member corporation commission. They regulate oil and gas production, service station measurements, and all that type of thing. Pretty important position because it's a statewide office, 3-member commission. Governor Henry appointed to that office a county commissioner from Oklahoma County who is openly homosexual. This is the Bible Belt, okay? Actually had some Republicans, party Republicans. This guy was a Democrat, promoting him because he was such a good manager. And that was at the Republican National Convention. How sad. Anyway, he was appointed to a corporation commission seat, and he was up for election for the first time. Well, lo and behold, he was very well funded. Money from California, New York, all over the nation poured in. He raised over $1 million, had the few billionaires we had in the state on his side. A lot of money. We had a courageous lady who was very well qualified, a geologist. She had worked at the Corporation Commission for, I think, over 5 years and didn't have a lot of funding, but she had a lot of guts. Single lady, she put like 100,000 or 30,000 miles on her car driving the state. But it was coming down to the final 2 weeks of the election, and we have a graph here. Roth is his name, blue Democrat. Her name is Murphy there, Dana Murphy. And 2 weeks out from the election, you see the blue. This was a poll from, published in this pro-homosexual newspaper called the Oklahoma Gazette. See the graph there 2 weeks out? He's pulling about a 12-point lead. I knew that something had to be done. I had an idea. I said, this man needs to be, we need to educate the voters. You remember Motor Read from the early years of the society movement to restore decency? So I thought, well, it's time for a little Motor Read education. So we formed a group known as MOMS, Mothers Organized for Moral Statutes. And it was fun. The other side calls it a hit piece. I call it education. Let me read this postcard to you. Dear Oklahoman, and this is Reed, Jim Roth, Democrat candidate, Oklahoma Corporation Commission. The GLBT, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender movement has endorsed Jim Roth for Oklahoma Corporation Commissioner. See www.victoryfund.org. Take them to the pro-homosexual website. Point 2, Jim Roth for Corporation Commission was a 2008 sponsor of the OKC Gay Pride Parade. See www.OKC Gay Pride Parade. And on down, and he was involved as Corporation Commissioner as leaving books very pro-homosexual within reach of the 3- and 5-year-olds. 3 bullet points. We had 50,000 of these little puppies printed up. I called on a businessman, non-Bircher. Okay, now, once again, I say we're not politicizing the John Birch Society. We're reaching out to individuals of like mind. First time I called on him, wrote a check $5,000. After I got into this, got a little more money, we realized we need another 5. We mailed to Democrat rural voting households 38,000 of these postcards 2 weeks out. Others in the movement copied this postcard by the thousands and flyered church windshields of conservative churches before the election. And I think she won by 53-47 or something like that. Now, how about that? I think she, now I may be off of this a little bit, she spent about $250,000 or $300,000. He spent in excess of $1 million and was defeated. Now, in a state the size of Oklahoma, you can do that. Now, I realize different states, it's different, but you can make a difference. This January, the executive committee met in Oklahoma, and since we were going to be there, I asked that we could have maybe a conference, and it came together real well. And it was called Clouds Over America Conference, and the thing that so excited me about it was that Pastor Paul Blair caught the vision. And did any of you see Pastor Blair chosen as Member of the Month last month? He's a pretty prominent individual. He's former All-Pro NFL Chicago Bear lineman. A great man. He is a lay pastor, senior pastor now at Fairview Baptist Church, really stepping up. And he says, Clark, I explained some of these things to him. He's a new member within the last year or two. But he wanted to reach out to other pastors, so we had the Clouds Over America Conference. In excess of 35 pastors showed up. Wasn't that neat? That is spheres of influence. Now, legislatively, 10th Amendment was passed. Representative Charles Key, I believe that was within the last week or so. Con recall, we have been working on this in excess of a decade. Now, I don't mean all the time, but what we would do, we'd go down and we'd approach individuals to introduce the con-call withdrawal in the House of Representatives. And then it would pass, large majority, go over to the Senate. Well, guess what? The Democrats had a stranglehold on the Senate. Remember I said Republicans had controlled the Senate for 100 years? Okay. It was never heard. We got it through the House probably 4 or 5 different sessions. You can only do it one time per session, which is 2 years. Okay? We go over to the Senate, it was never heard. This year, though, we got it to the Senate, and it was heard. It passed 9-zip, passed the state Senate. Randy Brogdon was the author. 45-zip. Came to the House, passed it passed Wednesday of the House, 90-6. And so that happened Wednesday of this week. And it's a tremendous blessing to see your hard labor come to fruition in a victory like that. So if the governor signs it, even if he doesn't, we can work around it, probably veto-proof, but I think he will sign it, even though he's a rascal. On this issue, it's really nonpartisan. It's no big deal. They don't even know what's going on, so it'll be. So I think Oklahoma will be the 11th state, if I'm not, wrong on the number, to withdraw, and the John Birch Society has been behind every one of them. Another recent victory that is kind of political, I'll embarrass her. Sally Bell, will you please stand up? Stand up. She was elected Tulsa County Republican chairman. And why is that important? Well, because she got an hour and a half with her congressman one-on-one. Okay? Influence. That's what it's all about. It's not that we need great numbers. God works with minorities. Least suspecting minorities sometime, okay? Future Oklahoma goals: continue to fight the Real ID reform, to be a leader, if you will, in the nation, to help other states come on board with that, the education. We would like to establish some type of website to not only encourage but educate state legislators from across the United States so they can communicate in a better manner on constitutional issues and be leader in that area. Stop the NAFTA superhighway, repeal NAFTA, stop the highway, but actually repeal NAFTA. Now, this is a real chore. The Republican Club for Growth crowd, they got a lot of money. And so there's a lot of education that needs to be done there. Also, strengthen private property rights, tax reform, English as official language. Those are some of the things politically that we hope to will come together. I mentioned the spiritual factor. Quote the verse, Psalm 128:1, "Blessed is everyone that feareth the Lord, that walketh in his ways." We need not forget that. Many churches now are ready to come on board with an educational program. And I think the Clouds Over America conference was initial breaking the ice on that, and we are having an individual who's following up on that, and actually there's some churches that are establishing chapters of the John Birch Society within church, and we're encouraging them to reach out. But they're doing that, so they're waking up. We have received a word within the last month, in the last 2 years, the Industrial Area Foundation out of Chicago has sent or put a lot of money in Oklahoma, and they have approached churches in Oklahoma to come on board from the left to offset what we're doing. 25 churches have signed on and committed $1,500 to $7,500 a year, and they want 40. I want to repeat the name, Industrial Areas Foundation. That's Saul Alinsky. The other side is not, we are not going unnoticed by the other side. You have to expect the battle, but we're ready for them. So in summary, I hope I've stressed enough that this has been a team effort. Many groups working together. Primarily on the individuals leading the organizations, like you have the Oklahoma Constitution newspaper, publishes voting records. It's a Bircher. You have OK Safe. George founded it. He's a Bircher. We have OPAC. Charlie Meadows. He leads it. He's a Bircher. A lot of synergy going on. And with the Lord's help, if we're in His will, we can have some successes. And my message to you, and I don't care where you are, you need to dig in, double your efforts, and let's take back our communities.